Hello, I'm Adam Eckstein, and I will be discussing with you the effects of the use of disparaging terms in the workplace. The mission and purpose of this lesson plan is to teach the learner how to identify some of the types of disparaging terms that can be found in the workplace, the root causes to its usage, and their effects on an organization. Finally, we will discuss how to use simple common sense measures to address those who might use these disparaging terms in the workplace. Derogatory and vulgar speech will cause a hostile work environment and should not be tolerated as it is unprofessional and has no rightful place in a workplace. Productivity and the morale of an organization will be severely impacted if eradicating its presence from the work environment is not swift. The problem that normally occurs when speech of this nature is encountered is that the offender will often state that it was not their intent to offend the victim. What is important to remember is that though it may not have been the offender's intent to cause harm, the overall effect on the victim or victims is all that matters. Even in previous cases where the victim might not have said anything to those who use that type of language, it should not be implied as consent to continue with this type of speech. Here are our learning goals. First, we talk about what causes the use of disparaging terms in the workplace. Secondly, we'll learn the root causes and their effects on an organization. And finally, we'll learn how to address disparaging terms in the workplace. What causes disparaging terms? Without defining and explaining how perceptions, stereotypes, and biases shape all of us, it is extremely difficult to understand why the use of disparaging terms is unacceptable in both a personal and professional environment. Perceptions are the procedures by which we try and interpret information about the environment that surrounds us. It also gives us feedback about ourselves and others. Though not always based on a true picture of reality, we behave as though our perceptions are real. For example, if I perceived that someone from a particular background or ethnic group was being dishonest, I would go with my gut that that individual was perhaps dishonest, but I would not associate all people from that ethnic group or background as being dishonest. Stereotypes are an exaggerated belief associated with a category which are fixed or rigid ideas that are associated with a group or category of people. They are not supported by evidence and can be favorable or unfavorable and are also driven by motive. For an example, all Northerners are rude and all Southerners are polite. Bias is prejudice in favor of or against one thing, a person, or a group when compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. So as we are shaped by our upbringing and the socialization process, perceptions, stereotypes, and biases will naturally occur. The issue is when these ideas are fixed and inflexible that can harm. For example, bias should not be confused with preference. I prefer McDonald's over Burger King, but would not discriminate or be prejudicial against Burger King employees based on their employment choices. Let's move on to now Objective 2, where we'll see some examples of how some individuals' perceptions, stereotypes, and biases, used in conjunction with disparaging terms, are simulated in a break room.
It's actually a threatening Coke dealer who likes KFC a little too much. Did you notice that she took my last pineapple water?
Uneducated unless by affirmative action policies, welfare stealer. You didn't have his name on it.
Hey, colonizers and destroyers of humble lands, why don't you two just share it?
Only hired to get a tax break? This is not the projects. I am not going to share with her.
Share what, uncut?
Well, Barbara Streisand with a cock. I'm sure this concept is foreign to you.
Why is inbred false messiah worshippers so upset all the time, huh?
hey,
What's the
look,
problem here? You know what I'm talking about? So let's tell me this.
Hey, look, Holocaust complainer, don't mind them. Okay, small ass and no rhythm, still easily upset at even the smallest thing, water.
Only good at rapping, raping, and sports. Don't get Zionist Palestinian baby killer involved in this.
Hey, people making more money than me, even though my people lived here first.
Oh, hey, Gardner.
Hola, Jorge. Always good to see you, although I'm pretty sure the janitorial lounge is down the hallway.
Oh man, who eats everything at our restaurants and thinks we don't spit in it? I'm a junior manager, just like you.
That's adorable, Taco Breath. Let me tell you something. No prenup money stealer took my last pineapple water.
Which brings us to our third objective of goal number 1, which is language of prejudice. Understanding that the usage of disparaging terms is essentially using a language of prejudice and does not embrace the differences that not just make us unique, but can enrich our individual experiences and perspectives. By using phrases of color such as testimonials or disparagement, stereotypical language, caricatures, ethnic jokes, slips, and epithets, it's all just another form of prejudice, and that is why disparaging terms should not be used in the workplace. Which brings us to goal number 2, which is learning the root causes to the use of disparaging terms and their effects on an organization. Communication is the successful exchange of information between individuals. If one is the recipient of disparaging terms in the workplace, effective and meaningful dialogue cannot occur between both parties. The use of disparaging terms in the workplace can have significant impacts on morale, production, and inclusiveness, or lack thereof. Some barriers to everyday communications include language barriers, different communication styles, physical barriers, perceptual barriers, and the noise of the environment that the conversation is taking place in. Cross-cultural communication barriers, misunderstandings, and our perceptions of others severely influence how we interact and treat others that are not like ourselves or come from the same background. Some cross-cultural misunderstandings include social courtesies, flow of information, assertiveness, culture, and honesty. Some barriers to cross-cultural communications are song symbols and gestures, accents, jive and jargon, lack of trust. Also, accents. Americans often react negatively when listening to people with strong foreign accents. We are indifferent with someone who is struggling with the English language, and this often leads to assumptions and biases that often are not true. Which brings us to our next topic, escalation of prejudice and bias. The continued usage of disparaging terms can give the perception or eventually enforce the idea of the superiority of one group over the other. Though starting off seemingly small at first with an escalation of prejudice or bias, disparaging terms can eventually turn to a goal of extermination or genocide over time and with continued inactivity to stop these errant behaviors. In the wrong minds, these harmless jokes or sayings, when given enough time and an environment to foster in, will destroy an organization and possibly cause harm to its individuals. The levels are increasing, such as disparaging terms, then it follows with avoidance, discrimination, then physical attacks, and with the final goal of being extermination or genocide. Which brings us to our last and final goal, goal number 3, learning how to address disparaging terms in the workplace. As mentioned earlier, communication is the successful exchange of information from one to another. To be a successful communicator in ensuring equality for all, one must be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. Hypocrisy will eventually be seen by all through your actions and speech. One cannot make a disparaging term or off-color joke amongst your peers or friends and then condemn inequality in another instance. So, you need to take a personal stance to not use disparaging terms. Be consistent in your actions, deeds, and words. You need to stop the use of disparaging terms in the workplace. You must be the standard bearer and ensure that your behaviors are in line with ensuring that the workplace is free of inequality. But how do you do that? Well, you'll confront and stop the use in a timely manner. Feedback is the most effective when it is relevant and timely, and I cannot stress the word timely. Do not be afraid to address a situation of disparaging term usage. Utilizing tact is an extremely successful mechanism when addressing such errant behaviors, as it can be seen as less confrontational than coming across in an accusatory manner. Which brings us to the workshop summary. This workshop, entitled The Effects of the Use of Disparaging Terms in the Workplace, strive to teach you, the adult learner, on how the use of disparaging terms in the workplace can severely affect the workplace as a whole. This workshop covered the following goals and objectives, which included learning the causes of disparaging terms in the workplace, learning the root causes to the use of disparaging terms and their effects on an organization, and learning how to address disparaging terms in the workplace. Workshop participants also had an opportunity to view a small clip that showed examples of disparaging terms in an office setting. The learning outcomes included also show concepts such as perception, stereotype, and bias, and how they influence our view of others. It also attempted to show how the effects of exclusionary language can escalate from harmless jokes and sayings to the death of some groups in the worst case scenario. We also discussed some techniques to use that can affect a change in a workplace climate by addressing the use of disparaging terms and by setting the example or being the guidon bearer in the workplace. This concludes the use of disparaging terms in the workplace workshop, and you are encouraged to continue to foster an inclusive workplace environment where the differences in all of us can be appreciated and accepted for the benefit of all. Thank you for participating, and much success with ensuring that your workplace is free of exclusionary and disparaging language. Good day.